Welcome to the beginning of the beginning, and welcome to the very first episode of Friends in the Corner podcast, a new podcast experience here in the Bluegrass state of Kentucky. And I'm excited to get this thing started off for you guys. So thank you so much for listening and tuning into the show today. And for some of you listening, maybe I've talked about this to you in person, one-on-one before, so you've been just waiting to hear this podcast. And for some of you, you haven't heard about it at all. This is the first time you checked it out. Either way, I'm excited to have you guys in here, and I'm very excited for the interview I'm about to do today with a good buddy of mine. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys tuning in a little bit about this podcast, how it came to be, and what I want it to be, and why I hope you guys will enjoy it and support it as well. So a few months ago, I found myself going through a bit of a rut in my life where everything just seemed to be on this constant routine. I would wake up, get ready for work, go to work, then I'd leave, go home, eat dinner, and go to bed, and then just wait for the weekend to come around. And I just found myself being stuck in that rut and being depressed by just the continued cycle I was going through. And I am a man that does like to have routine and rhythm in his life. But after a while of just going through that same stuff and just the stress and demand that I would find in just certain aspects of my life at that moment, I just found myself in this continued sadness for a while. And so I knew I needed to do something that was going to give me a little more of a creative outlet than what I was going through at the time. It was funny because around the same time, I had friends coming up to me mentioning kind of the same thing. They would tell me that they felt like I was just settling for what I was already doing, but I wasn't really willing to put myself out there as much. And that was some deep truth that I was really pondering on the entire time. You see, I've had the idea of doing a podcast now for a little over a year and a half. And before I dipped into podcasting, I've done stuff with videos on YouTube. I've done blogs, but podcasting was always something different and unique that I wanted to try. And I was on a podcast for a little bit of time, but I wanted to do something more centered around what I thought was fun and enjoyable to do. And so I just had the idea in the back of my head about doing the podcast. But as work and life got busier, I just never really put the foot forward to start the podcast. And there was a little bit of fights within myself to even start it, because I always ask myself, why would anyone want to listen to a podcast I make? What would I even talk about? What do I even know about doing a podcast? Just these voices of doubts that I just found myself fighting. And those voices of doubt stuck with me for over a year and a half while I just paused and just let this cross by. But then after a while, just after this past year of just routine that was just bothering me, one day I just finally said, okay, let's do it. And I don't know what this podcast is going to be all about. I don't know if it's going to succeed. I don't know if it's going to fail. I don't know if you guys are going to love listening to it, or you're going to find it just the biggest waste of your time. You are committing 45 minutes of your time to this podcast, so I want to make it the best experience for you guys. I don't know if it is going to be the biggest success I've ever had, or if it's going to be one of the biggest disasters, but I can tell you this. These last couple months of working and preparing and getting this podcast ready has been some of the most fun that I've ever had. And the more that I've put my heart into it, the less of those voices of doubts I've heard. So I want to thank a couple people who have helped me along the way to make sure I was getting this in the right order. First, I want to thank those friends, and they know who they are, who have just been so direct with me to kind of push me away from the routine that I was going through and say, you got to do more. You got to step out and just show more of yourself to it. So I want to thank a lot of those people who have came and spoke to me, specifically my good friend Sydney Klinkenbeard. We had a great conversation in Louisville talking about that. I also want to thank my girlfriend Catherine. She has been the biggest cheerleader for this podcast ever since I told her about it. We were coming back from Florida, and I told her just a lot about the stress of the routine I felt myself in. And she just said, you know what, I think you need to do something that's going to bring you happiness away from that routine you found yourself in. And I told her about this podcast, and ever since I told her, she's just been the one pushing for it. And she's asked about it. She's wanted to learn more about it. And I can't thank her enough just for the support that she's given me on it. So thank you, babe, so much. I am so excited to be doing this journey with you as we get this podcast started. And so I hope you're encouraged by this too, guys. Those of you who are listening, maybe some of you are struggling with the voices of doubt right now. Maybe you've been sitting on some idea to do for a year and a half, maybe even longer. And I hope to encourage you to just do it. The only person you're waiting on permission from is yourself. So if you have some idea, push for it. Just do it. And if there's something I can do to help you along the way, please do. So I'm excited. Let's get this party started here with this podcast, guys. I really hope that you'll continue to help and support the show. You can help and support the show by telling your friends, sharing this stuff on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FITC Podcast. That's uppercase F, uppercase I, uppercase T, uppercase C Podcast. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also email the show at friendsinthecorner@gmail.com. That's friendsinthecorner, all together lowercase, @gmail.com. Send me some ideas, recommendations, some thoughts you have on the shows. Hey, if you want to be on the show, just drop me a line and tell me something you think might be an interesting episode. Basically, this is my plea for you guys to join me. Come along for the journey. Let's have some fun, and let's see what this podcast evolves into. So now, with all that said, I want to say that I'm excited to have my first guest on this show. He is a former UK football player, an Allstate Good Works award recipient. He is the wife of Ashley, which I think is probably the most important accomplishment that you have, and somehow that's the award. I don't even know how he got it. He outkicked his coverage, but he'll admit that first. He's also the host of BBN Chalk Talk, which is one of my former podcasts I was a part of a couple seasons ago for UK football. And now they're getting ready to go into their third season here. So I want you guys to also check out BBN Chalk Talk when you get a chance, and we'll talk a little bit about more of that. But without further ado, here's my guest, Mr. Max Godby. All right, guys. Well, we're live here with the very, very, very first episode of Friends in the Corner podcast. With me is my good buddy, Max Godby. How you doing, Max?
I'm doing well. I'm honored today. It's a lot to put on me, Dan, to be on the inaugural episode.
You're the very first guest, man.
You are throwing a lot of risk.
Well, I'm putting a lot of eggs in this basket for this podcast, man. It's either going to be successful or we're going to, if it fails, I'm going to throw you under the bus with it.
That's fine.
I'm
built for that.
Well, man, I'm loving having you as the first guest, man. How long have we known each other for, man?
7 years.
7 years, God, man, it feels like yesterday, man.
It does.
And now we're here today. We were just finishing up a party here, Max's housewarming party. He just bought a new house in Central Kentucky here. I know him and his wife Ashley are super excited about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful house. So congratulations, man. It's just awesome. You've had like a pretty kick butt year for the last 12 months, haven't you, man?
It's been very good. The house has been nice, but convincing an extremely beautiful woman to marry you, especially one that you've outkicked your coverage with and been able to actually maintain that coverage as well, and enough to get them to marry you also, that's definitely bigger than a 28-3 blow that the Falcons had with the Patriots. That's a great comeback.
That's a dead meme, man. Come on, we've been past the Super Bowl.
See, I can't pass it up. Though.
Why can't you? It's a dead meme, man. We've got.
Do you want me to do another one? Then you can do the Cavs blowing a 3-1 lead. You can do Hillary Clinton blowing the popular vote lead.
That's 2016. It's 2018, mid 2018.
There's not another one though for really 2018 right now that's relatable to that.
Well, I know. It's
up to date for that topic.
All right. Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of topics in sports today. And I want to preface to say we're still trying to navigate what this podcast is going to be about. But I don't want it to be a complete sports podcast because God knows every idiot has a sports podcast in Lexington. You've got a sports podcast in Lexington.
I do have a sports podcast in
you're
Lexington.
Not that I'm saying you're an idiot. I'm just saying most.
I've turned into an armchair quarterback.
Oh, hey,
washed up.
Well, so don't we all? So, but man, I'm just happy to be here with man. We've had a good party today. Came here with my girlfriend Catherine, and we just had a lot of fun. And now we're getting ready to do this, and just want to really dive into a lot of different stuff as we go through this podcast. However long it's going to be. If it goes too long, we might split into 2 episodes. Who knows? But you give some good content. That's why I love talking to you, man. But we just want to start off and talk about who is Max Godby. Who are you? If you can give a nutshell view of you, just tell us a little bit about who you were and.
Who I was?
Who you currently are?
I'm a shell of a man.
No, you're not, no. Hang on now. So it's not, you're just a grizzled old vet.
True. I can go with that.
All right.
Former
UK football player.
Allstate
Good Works award winner. Say that 10 times fast.
That I can't say it once, honestly.
Husband of Ashley.
Yes.
Free-to-lay guy. What? I don't know your exact title. I'm sorry, man.
I'm just what people call the chip mob. I just nod my head and smile.
Max Godby's running the chip mob in Kentucky, guys. You want your chips? Get your chips. Max Godby is on it. But man, I think that's a good question for us to kind of lean in here. So you went to UK. You played 5 years at the University of Kentucky. Won a couple of different awards on and off the field here. But how did you come to the decision to go to UK? What out of all the schools you could have gone to? Obviously, you're a Louisville boy. So how did you decide to move over here to Lexington?
Well, honestly, no one else wanted me. Lexington, Kentucky was one of the only schools to really reach out to me. And I had offers to some small Christian schools, smaller schools, places I could have gotten to go and play right away. But I knew in the back of my head, if I didn't take a chance to do the preferred walk-on thing with Kentucky, I'd regret it. And so I owed it to myself to at least try. And that was kind of just the whole mentality, was be able to show that I can hang with these guys. And I was some small offensive lineman from a little 2A Christian school out of the outskirts of Louisville, but it was mainly just trying to show that I had the tenacity to hang with some guys that were a lot more talented than me.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome, man. You just said, you know what, I'm going to just walk on here and show these guys what I'm made of. You took a big chunk to do that, though, man. You jumped right into the SEC and then the thick of things. So you just said, all right, I'm going to prove myself against the best competition in college football.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome. It was awesome. And I got to play against guys that currently right now are playing in the NFL, making a lot of money, and being able to say that at one time I got to share the field with some of those guys is something really cool. Now, I didn't win a lot of times, but there was times that I got a couple steals as well on the field with them, and that aspect is really cool as well. But being able to say, you know, I tried it, I think I got at least my worth out of it, what I invested in. I definitely got back out of it, and haven't regretted it at all. One of the best decisions I've ever made.
That's awesome, man. Well, I know talking to you really enjoyed those last couple years when we get to know those last couple years you were on the field for UK. But I know, like, at the start, there were some pretty difficult times there. You played for UK 2010 to 2014. Am I right? 2000 was it 2015? I can't remember.
That was my first year out. Was 2015.
2015. Okay. So yeah, in 2 of those years, you guys had back-to-back 2-10 seasons. Had a transition in coaching during your time there. I want to talk to you about what it was like going through some of those difficult points. Because right now with UK, we've actually kind of been a little bit spoiled compared to most years with UK. We've gone bowling. We haven't been super successful with the bowling just yet, but we're getting there. Mm-hmm. But what was it like to be kind of in the more tougher parts to handling that criticism of fans and kind of going through those seasons? You
kind of learn because looking at it now, I mean, I say I'm in football years I'm older, but I mean I'm 27. But to look at it now. You look at the guys that play right now, they're kids. They really are kids when it comes to just maturity level, what they're used to. They're kids. And you have so many of them that put their worth into the sport. And when you got some slap that's never played the game, never played it at the level that these kids are playing it now, it doesn't really matter. It's still words that are saying, you suck, you're garbage, anything like that. And you really learn, and it was a great maturing. It was a great maturing and developmental time for me because you learn to rely on your brothers, those guys that you play with, and being able to really lean on one another. Especially, I mean, you could talk about. There's a reason why the game of football is the greatest team sport, and I argue the greatest sport of all time, because it's a game that is complete dependence on another human being that you do not see in any other sport, that all 11 guys have to be on the same page with each other and all that. And not only do you grow that aspect of yourself, but you grow a whole lot more mature, being able to handle criticism in ways that develop you outside of the sport as well. And even though you're part of a losing program for a few years there, that's something that I've been able to carry over into my professional life as well, being able to handle that kind of criticism and kind of know when to shake off criticism and when to take criticism to heart. It grew me as a man. Yeah. And having coaches and being around guys where you're trying to figure out a way to make something work and trying everything, not sticking to the same thing. And that was the thing that a lot of people didn't see in locker rooms, is each week we were trying to do something different to try to switch the momentum. It wasn't a cultural issue or anything like that. It was trying to revamp and try to do something different to try to get it going. And I've learned that in my professional life as well. And when my grandmother always used to say during those times where we went 2-10 and 2-10, she told me, she goes, well, you can't learn how to win until you learn how to lose. And I used to say, well, daggone it, Mama, I want to win. Like, I think I know how to lose very well now. Like, I kind of want to learn how to win now. But now I kind of understand what she meant by it, is at that point when you face adversity and you kind of face those oh crap moments, you're able to react a whole lot quicker. And in football, you live and die on those Saturdays. Out in the real world now, okay, someone's mad because something happened. You kind of get a little bit more time to react. You're able to sit back, look, try to figure out the situation. And people that haven't been a part of extremely stressful situations or like game situations, that's something that they don't get and they're not used to. And so you kind of get into that panic system. That's why you see guys in corporate America that played sports, they do so well because they're used to that knee-jerk reaction what used to be a knee-jerk reaction is now I get time to actually process and think this through kind of thing. And you can see a lot of success through that also. So I kind of take stuff that it sucked, don't get me wrong, but I take the lessons I learned from it and put it to where I am today.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. But, one other thing, I kind of mentioned at the spot, you kind of hit on a little bit here when you were talking about your experience there, is obviously you were there in the middle of a coaching change, going from Joker Phelps to Coach Stoops. Can you tell me a little bit about what that transition was like for you? Tell me a little bit of the difference between Coach Phelps and Coach Stoops, since you were underneath both of their leadership.
I love both of those men. They both did things for me that you wouldn't see a head coach really do, especially to a scrub walk-on. You wouldn't see them do it, but it speaks to the character of both of those men. You can talk about the defensive ideology, offensive ideology. You could talk about the coaching mentality, but them as men, I couldn't ask for two better coaches to be around, especially at the college level, where it seems that coaching dynamic has changed over the past few years with how recruiting's going and how you're trying to get some of these kids now into your programs. It's really speaks to the testament of Stoops and Joker on how they really carried themselves, at least for me. And I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, during that transition, especially how Stoops handled that first year when the first set of recruits coming in, because everyone started using the term Stoops' guys. Stoops' guys. Stoops is finally bringing in his guys. And you had guys on the team that were, Joker, that were
Joker's guys, which you consider yourself a Joker's guy?
I consider myself a member of the football team.
You'll be wherever you need to be.
Exactly. And he nipped that in the butt so quickly once the recruiting talks started. He came into the room and he said, "There is no Joker guys. There are no Stoops guys. You all are all my guys. And I'm out recruiting to make our team better and guys that can come in and be a part of you guys." And the way he took that, and that is a huge leadership aspect as well that he brought in, especially with anything where you've got a leadership change or anything like that, nipping in the butt two different cultures coming in and trying to get everyone bought in with the new leader as well.
Right. I think that's awesome, man. Just, because that's a challenging feat to come in midway through. Some of these college kids is middle of their careers. They were there for some of them were going to be seniors who were working under Joker that entire time. Now Stoops comes in, that takes some real leadership to say, all right, we're all one team here. And one of my best memories from college, I remember, was after it was announced that Joker was fired from his duties. One of the best memories I remember of the UK football team that year was the Sanford game when you guys beat Sanford at home and you guys lifted Joker up. It was his last home game there. I thought that was a really touching memory just to see what that man meant to you guys, for all of you guys that are a part of that team with them. But, you talked about it. You were a walk-on, which walk-ons are not always the most well-recognized people on campus, not always, maybe not even the most respected, but eventually, after a couple years putting your work in on the field, you did eventually earn your own scholarship on the team. That was your junior year of your playing career, correct?
Fourth year junior.
Year junior.
Redshirt junior.
Redshirt junior. Okay. So what did that mean to you to finally earn that scholarship when they finally handed it off to you?
It was such a mixed bag of emotions. One that, you were working so hard to attain something and you finally got it, but you have that firm foundation of this isn't everything for me. So I didn't have that letdown of being on scholarship, or that letdown of, this is all I feel. The financial burden that it took off myself and my parents, that was huge. And I felt like I owed it to my parents, especially of how much they supported me during all the years, all of football, from elementary school to even traveling to games as well. And I think also it kind of just it for me, it was my own way to be able to tell people, it's like I do belong here, and I'm not it wasn't just an oddity. It was, I was able to prove people that I do belong. Not even saying people were wrong, but just saying I do belong.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One little note, I want to ask you a little bit more about the scholarship, or especially some of the awards you won while you were in college. One thing I do want to point out, just to take a little pin out of that, we're recording right now in Max's office, his domain, his man cave here at his office. We've got our girls with us here, and they're excited to try to listen to the show a little bit here, but we've already bored them. They're already asleep here on the floor.
I told you this was going to happen.
I know, right? Well, don't worry. I've taken a picture, and the day that this podcast goes live, I'll be posting that to our Twitter feed, so you can look forward to that. Want to make sure the mic's still good?
You unplugged the...
Unplugged the what now?
The charger.
Oh, the charger. Okay. Yeah, we're working on a high budget here for our first episode of Friends in the Corner, right?
Well, it's fine. Yeah. It's... Stuff like this happens at times.
Oh, you know, hey, it's not the first time I've been on a podcast before, and we're going to
That's
talk
very
about
true.
that here. But a couple more things about your playing career I want to ask you about. Tell me a little bit about winning the Allstate Good Works Award. What is that award? Can you tell me a little bit about it? And then what does it mean for you to win that award for the UK football team and represent the UK football team in that capacity?
That award is it's an award for guys that truly try to do things right on the field and off the field. And we're given a amazing platform that can be used for selfish gain or for selfless gain. Or I guess selfless giving. I guess that would be the correct term for it. I guess so.
There's two ways you can go with it when you're, on public television.
Exactly.
You guys are.
And so the award's given out to 22 NCAA football players, 11 from Division I, another 11 to Division II and Division III. And I got the honor of going down to New Orleans and hanging out with some really awesome guys. One guy in particular is a guy named Nate Boyer, which Nate's been in the news a lot over this whole national anthem thing. He was the one that wrote the open letter to Kaepernick, and he was the one that came up with the idea of Kaepernick to kneel instead of sit. And that's a story that's been so skewed by both sides of the political world. But Nate is one of the most what's the best? Full of common sense, just full of just regular common sense. And he was he's hanging around all of us that were in 22, 23 years old, but he was 35. And
oh wow,
he was a long snapper at Texas, but before that he was a Green Beret, and he actually helped in like Black Ops or Spec Ops, liberating these countries in Africa, and doing some like crazy like stuff that like campaign version of Call of Duty kind of stuff. And so if anyone talking about the national anthem and all that, he at first he was angry about it, but then he's wanting to find common ground and talk about how when he fights for freedom, he's fighting for people to live how they choose, because he's seen oppression either way, when either it's police brutality or anything of that concept. So I encourage anyone to go and actually look up Nate Boyer, because that dude is without doubt he could be the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world if he really wanted to campaign for that, because he really could. But those were the kind of guys that I didn't even hold a candle to, that were just awesome.
That's awesome to hear. I kind of remember him because he was an undrafted free agent for the Seahawks, right?
Correct.
He didn't make the team, though, right?
No.
Okay, but
now the NFL,
he's doing okay.
But he's been hanging out with the NFL since.
Okay. So he no worries there. So Nate Boyer,
he was in the new Madden game. The Madden campaign, when you create your own player, your player goes and meets like the Army or something, and he's in the game. It's the funniest thing.
So he's getting some Madden money then. So
yes, he got Madden money.
Well, good. Well, we all need to get some EA money. You got some EA money for a few years ago, so we won't get into that. But
thank you, EA.
If you played NCAA 2013 and 2014, you may be able to play as Max for UK. Not saying it was right, but he got compensated finally for it, so good for him. But we're going to switch gears a little bit here, my friend. Let's talk a little bit here about a podcast both you and I know very well, one that you've had the fun of doing now for going on almost this is going to be your third season going into
this will be our third season.
I know last year I dropped the ball. You guys asked me what was the start date for it. August 29th was the when we released our first episode.
August
25th, 2016. Yeah. So you can celebrate that on August 29th, guys.
Yeah.
When you go to listen to BBN Chalk Talk there. But BBN Chalk Talk, I had the pleasure of starting that podcast with you, Matt Smith, Greg Lyle. And we had some fun time during that first season. After that first season, I decided to step away. You guys decided just to grow and expand and get sponsors and get paid. So I missed out on that bandwagon. But tell me what BBN Chalk Talk's all about, man. And what have you guys been doing with BBN Chalk Talk?
So if you've ever wondered what an offensive lineman thinks about, or what a group of offensive linemen,
that's a very keen niche.
Yes, it's a very unique group. So basically, if you like anything where you try to tie anything back to food, that's us.
And
usually.
God, you do that well.
Yes, we do. And it's a sports show, but it's really, I like to describe the show as three guys in a bar talking. We're all a bunch of washed up has-beens. We have our own professional lives. We have our own personal lives. But we come in, we kind of just shoot the bull and talk UK athletics, talk all sports, and talk. No, we don't talk politically, but we talk.
But you guys cover because it starts off football, and then that's obviously the bread and butter. But you guys have covered almost everything UK sports wise, and even go above and beyond. You guys have covered even the food eating competitions. Joey Chestnut, baby.
Well, I mean that's like offensive line Christmas. We call ourselves the Fools, and Fools are fat old offensive linemen.
Mm.
And so to give a perspective of what the show's about, just think about fat old offensive linemen sitting around talking food, talking sports.
But you guys got a nice little gig there. You get to talk football. You guys even open up your own competitions to Big Blue Nation here to host you guys for tailgates. So you guys go to all the tailgates.
Ponzi scheme is that?
I know. It's just a nice way for you to guys get free food. And I never got invited to go to a tailgate with you guys. What's up with that, man?
I think we did.
No, Max.
Then you should have spoken up, Dan.
Well,
that's your own fault.
I didn't have the money.
It's not showing initiative.
I didn't have the money to buy my own mic at that time. Now I'm doing better. I've got two dimes I can rub together just to buy this equipment. So it was because I was an Ohio State fan. Was that
probably, yeah?
Maybe? Okay.
It was for your own protection, Dan.
Well, I mean, I just wanted some free food. Can I go with you guys this time too?
You come whenever you want, man.
I'll give up my own words. Putting this out here right now for anyone with BBN Big Blue Nation here that's hosting tailgates. I want to do a dessert competition. I know you guys give out an award for some of the best tailgates for the year. If you've got good desserts that you want to share with Dan Pauly and the Friends in the Corner podcast, you can be on an episode of Friends in the Corner podcast. We'll just interview just about anyone by this point. But just have me on, and I'll come. I'll bring my girlfriend, Catherine, and we'll just enjoy the desserts, and we'll give an award at the end of the year. Just throwing that out there. We'll see how that takes off. But, all right. So you guys have covered all sorts of stuff. You guys were recently at Media Day. And when I mean you guys, I mean Greg.
Yeah.
was down there to interview some of the fans down there.
Honestly, it was great that we were down at Media Day, but I've lost a lot of faith in the SEC that they just give out media passes to anyone now.
Well, you told me a little bit about it with your response, or Greg's response, when you guys found out you guys got their credentials.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah,
we saw the email. We were like positive we were going to get rejected. Like there was no plan whatsoever to go down to media day.
Yeah.
And then it's like, are we going to go? It's like, no, because I didn't think it was going to happen.
It's like ESPN, KSR, BBN Chalk Talk. It's like
basically
you're in the same breath as all those coverage. Max, you're a journalist. I'm telling you this right now. You are a journalist.
Dan, you know fair and well that I'm not a journalist.
You are journalist. Listen, this podcast is different. You got invited to ESC Media Day. You're doing coverage. You do go off on some rants and upset some people every once in a while, but you're a journalist. So what journalist does?
Well, if anything, it's just a Clay Travis or a Matt Jones or a Mark Berger.
Mark Berger. Oh, yeah, Mark Berger.
I love Mark Berger, man. Yeah, you talk about a man full of rage. Yeah. Mark Berger's a good guy.
Well, and you've had some great characters on your show, man, that I love listening to. You've had Keith Farmer on. I love your interview of him. A guy I want to have on this show. It's one of my bucket list items to get him on the show, Mr. DJ Otis Badass. He hosts a local wrestling business here in town.
Don't compartmentalize him, man. I mean, he's got that. He does the nightlife as well. He does DJ. He does DJing on the side, hence the name DJ. He's a producer of several radio shows as well.
We're gonna have fun.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is a Renaissance man.
So DJ Otis, I'm gonna try to hit you up on Twitter, but please, man, if you want to be on this show, I would love to have you, my friend. So we'll try to convey that. He's probably going to block me on Twitter. I can already see this happening. But man, that's awesome just to see where BBN Chalk Talk's gone, man. I'm very proud of all three of you guys for where you guys have taken it, just what you guys have done with it. I think it's amazing from us starting in a hot kitchen in one of your apartments 3 years ago. We now have met to the point where now we're recording my own podcast in a hot room in the top of your nice house in Central Kentucky. So I guess we're moving up in the world. I don't know. We're older now. We're 27, both of us. So we're just old grizzled vets by this point. I don't know.
Basically, yeah. We'll go with that.
Yeah, that's a good way. So who does have the best tailgate that you've seen so far? Out of all these couple of years you've gone, do you guys have some aces that you guys just love going to whenever you guys are out there?
Gosh, I mean, you've got the Smiths have an excellent one. No relation to Matt Smith. There's one that we go to that has omelets in a bag that they do for the noon games. They make omelets in a bag.
Cool.
They mix them all in baggies with all the ingredients already made. You shake it, you cut it, and then you pour it right onto a hot skillet, and you've got an instant omelet. It's fantastic. Right. And then just due to my what's the term? I guess my business and my company as well. I've got to give a shout out to the Kroger tailgate as well, because they do some very, very good tailgates that we get to be a part of. And awesome. If you get opportunity to go to one of the Kroger tailgates this year, you need to go to it. All you got to do is spend $100 at Kroger, and you get 4 free tickets to go in. Mm-hmm.
And that Kroger tailgate, that's usually right by BCTC's Cooper campus right there.
Yep, right on Cooper campus.
Yeah, so you can go there, just jump in. Hey, while
you get 2 free drinks also.
Yeah, and while you're over at BCTC, pick up some information. You might be a new education opportunity in there. Anywho, so what do you guys hope for the podcast going from this point now where you guys are at? You guys have picked up some sponsors. You guys are finally getting paid. I'm waiting on my legacy check to come in here. I still apparently, I've heard Greg. I've listened to the podcast here and there. I know they think I still owe you a bottle of bourbon, but
you repaid that tonight.
Well, I repaid Max tonight. So
that's all that need.
My debt is paid. So, but
that for all I'm concerned, you owe me nothing.
Okay. Well, Greg and Matt, I'm sorry, but for Max, I'm good. So yeah, what's your hopes here for the podcast as you guys move forward?
Honestly, and we kind of talked about it, we just want to keep the podcast fun. We don't take ourselves seriously. We take what we do. We want to make a great product for it, but we don't. We've got lives outside of this. We just want it to be fun, and I think people love it when there's that kind of just that fun, loosey-goosey kind of edge to it. as well that, again, it's just like three guys talking in a bar. You just get to walk up and be a part of the conversation.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I'm hoping for the best for you guys. Continue going. Can't wait to listen to you guys this season. Hopefully, maybe we can do a dual BBN Chalk Talk Friends in the Corner podcast here soon. Reunite the band one more time.
A crossover episode?
Crossover. Do you want to do that?
Oh, heck yeah.
Talk to Graham Matt. Let's see what we can do here. I would love to, hit up again with those boys. I can talk about some Ohio State football.
No, we're
good.
We're good.
Expanding horizons. But BB and Chalk Talk, guys, check them out on iTunes. Are you guys on SoundCloud? Where are you guys at?
We're at SoundCloud, Google Play or Google Air, whatever it is. iTunes, just type in BB and Chalk Talk. On Twitter at BBN Chalk Talk, and then we've got a website also, www.bbnchalktalk.com.
Yes, you can go onto that website. You can see some of Mac's written rants on there. It's quite a read for the young minds. The last stuff I just want to talk about is this upcoming season. At the time of recording this podcast, football season is going to get ready to start up. September 1st is our first game versus Central Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. I knew a thing. Yay. But can you give us a little preview of what you think about the boys this season? How you think we're going to do? You think we're going bowling? You think we're winning a bowling game here? What? Give me some insight here from a former player.
The schedule's tricky because you've got a lot of teams in the East that are going to be very good. This is the first year where almost everyone in the East are kind of evenly matched with the exception of Georgia. So a lot of these games are kind of toss-ups. And it's like UK every year. It's dependent on how they start the year off. Because they got Central Michigan, South Carolina. There's one game in between. I can't remember. And then Florida. So you've got... Or maybe vice versa. Florida may be the second game of the year. Regardless, you got two non-conference and then you got two conference games in the first four games. You've got to come out of that at least 3-1. Mm-hmm. You can't lose to both South Carolina and Florida at the beginning of the year. You got to at least come out of the gate 3-1.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's pressure for them to not just get to a bowl game, but win a bowl game this season? Do you think there's pressure on Stoops?
I think the pressure's off this year.
You think so?
I really do. I think due to the schedule, I think the talent is there, and I think they should go bowling. But I think, again, it depends on if they're showing improvement. If the team is continually showing that improvement. Because you're going to have setback years. And that's something that UK's not used to. They've used to being gradually better. This may be the year that there's a setback just because of the schedule. Because, again, this player-wise, this is the most talented team Stoops has ever had. But the schedule's tricky to tell because South Carolina's supposed to be good. Florida with Dan Mullins. Will Florida be good? Can you break the streak?
Do they play at Florida this year or do they play here?
Play at Florida, which that's an element.
Yeah.
Missouri's supposed to be pretty good this year. It's still that high-octane offense, and they wound up being able to pull everything together also and go bowling against Texas.
Yeah, it was like right after we played them, too. They started getting their last season is when they started getting gear and made a good run for it at the end of that season there.
Jeremy Pruitt to Tennessee. Can Jeremy Pruitt make a difference in Tennessee in that short of a time? I mean, the list goes on and on. Even though Vandy's had a losing record, Vandy's still a physical team that you got to play with, and you got to honor Derek Mason and his ability to call a defensive game. And then you've got your non-conference, your across divisional teams, Mississippi State, which is always a physical team, but then also you play Texas A&M. You're playing at Kyle Field. That is unmarked territory for UK.
Is this their first time going to A&M?
I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, okay.
All I know is the connection is Bear Bryant.
But since they joined the conference, we've had very few.
Since Texas A&M has joined the conference, this is the first time they're meeting against Texas A&M as the SEC.
Okay. I was going to ask you when the last time was previously, but I don't know if you know that right.
I'm not Dick Gabriel. I'm not just a thesaurus
of information.
Of knowledge.
When we do the crossover episode, we'll cover those grounds there.
Perfect.
All right, man. Last question I got for you: is Benny Snells the best running back in the SEC?
I think he is.
Do you know?
I really do. I think of his talent level, his physicality, and his ability. He's got an X factor. It's that drive. It's those yaks. Do you know what a yak is?
No. It's an animal, right? It's a you hunt it. So you're calling him a yak. I mean, the hairstyle's funky, but you can't be judging him that hard, man.
Yards after contact.
Okay.
The amount of yak yards that he has is unreal. His ability and his refusal to go down. You could throw stats at me and you could throw all that, but you could tell when someone's got a heart of lion and a dude's tough, that dude is tough.
That's awesome, man. Well, Max, I think that's the all time we've got here, man. But I wanted to say again, thank you so much for being my very first guest. There's no one else I wanted to start this podcast off with, man. And just hopefully we can have you back. I want to get a episode going with you, me, and Trevino. I think that'll be some fun.
That'd be so much fun.
We're probably going to need more time than I've allotted here today, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Man, let me give you a moment here. Floor is yours. If you want to plug anything you got going on, plug your Twitter handles or your social media accounts. Selfishly plug yourself right now here. I'll let you have this time.
I mean, if you want to follow me, I'm at ohmygodby64. Just think ohmygodby64. And then look at all our stuff with BBN Chalk Talk as well, at BBN Chalk Talk, and then www.bbnchalktalk.com.
You don't want to plug chips or anything like that?
Man, I don't have to
buy chips, man. Buy Frito-Lay chips at your local Kroger.
I'm looking to buy a new grill, so go ahead and buy some stuff.
Do you think Frito-Lay will give us some money for that little plug?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, we tried.
I got to go to the corporate office on that one.
Well, man, hey, thank you so much, brother. Always, I love you, man. We've had 7 good years of being friends here, and I'm looking forward to many, many more. And we'll be doing this again here soon. All right, my brother?
Good deal.
All right. All right, and that's a wrap for the very first interview for Friends in the Corner podcast. It's just such a fun time getting to talk to Max. So, Max, thank you so much for being my very first guest on Friends in the Corner. I want to thank Max and his wife, Ashley, for a great house welcoming party that they threw. They got a beautiful place. We had some good food and good conversation that day. So, thank you so much for the laughs and memories there. I also want to say that I'm very proud of all 3 of the guys of BBN Chalk Talk just for what they've been able to do with the podcast since we got it started a few years ago and just where they're taking it now. Hopefully one day, I'm still pushing for it, we'll do a crossover episode here, BBN Chalk Talk, Friends in the Corner, have a little conversation, maybe have a few brewskis. We'll see. Matt, Greg, I'd love to have you guys on the show too if you're interested. So, again, check them out. BBN Chalk Talk. You can find them on Twitter at BBN Chalk Talk. Download their show from the iTunes Store. They're also on Blog Talk Radio. Also, be sure to follow Max Godby on Twitter at ohmygodby64. And also be sure to follow our show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FITC Podcast. That's FITC Podcast for future episodes. And be sure to email the show at friendsinthecorner@gmail.com. That's friendsinthecorner, all together, lowercase, at gmail.com. And guys, with that is a wrap for the very first episode of Friends in the Corner. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. This has probably been the most fun that I've had in a very long time. And I'm excited to see where this podcast goes. And I hope you guys are excited to see where it goes as well. So be sure to keep in touch. Try to listen to the next episode we put out here, and I'll see you guys next time. That's a wrap.